Hi, I made a few videos on problems I face with gimbals and their poor quality design. So I've spent so much money on a gimbal, I might as well try and use it and make it something useful. So what I want to explain to you now is how to balance your camera on your gimbal. The most important thing about balancing your camera on a gimbal is to understand the basic principles behind balancing something. Okay, the center of gravity and how it works, the pendulum and the way it falls and all that. So let me show you now the basic principles so that it is easier for you to understand how to balance your camera on the gimbal. So let's carry on and show you the principles. Okay, let me show you. This is quite a heavy piece of metal. I want to show you. Let's find the center of gravity. So we just move it up and down until it's on the right side, so it'll fall that way. It's on the left side, so it falls this side. So let's get it right there, and that is the center of gravity of the metal bar. Okay, so if I move it a little bit, it will not fall, right? Okay, we know that the center of gravity is somewhere here. Okay, right there, right there. Okay, somewhere there. Okay, now if I try to balance it, right? Now if I lower it down, let's put it this way, it's easier. Immediately it starts to swing like a pendulum, because we know that the center of gravity is somewhere here. It's lower, the center of gravity is lower than my pivot point, so it will swing like a pendulum. If the center of gravity is much higher than the pivot point, it will just fall to one side. It will not try to swing like a pendulum. So if it doesn't swing like a pendulum, then we know that the center of gravity is much higher, right? If it starts swinging like a pendulum, we know that the center of gravity is lower than the pivot point. So if you try to balance at the center of gravity, it will not swing. It won't swing, even if I try to make it swing, and it won't fall to one side or the other. It stays in that position. So the whole idea is, when you're trying to balance your camera, is to find where that center of gravity is with respect to your pivot points. So where are the pivot points on your gimbal? Let's have a look at the gimbal. This is one pivot point. Okay, so we have to go through here, right in the center of this. Okay, this is another pivot point. See, it's rotating about here, right? And this is another pivot point. It has to rotate about there, right? So if you add up all the points, you'll find that your center of gravity must be somewhere here, at this location, right? Where the two cross. The three of them cross, actually, because you want this to be here, right? Then you know that your camera is balanced. If they don't meet altogether, then chances are there's something wrong with the design of your gimbal. But that's not my problem at this point. I'm trying to show you how to balance it. So we know the center of gravity must be somewhere here, right? Let's have now look at it with my old, very heavy camera. Maybe 40 years old, but I'm not using it anymore, but it's very heavy and it's a film camera. But why I want to use this to show you that it can be balanced is because it's very old and heavy. Now since the lens is very long, the center of gravity will be, can you see? The center of gravity is somewhere here, right? So I know I have to get the center of gravity somewhere here to get it balanced. I'm leaving this strap on because I couldn't remove it. So let's just fix that in. This has to be really tight, if not I'll slip out. And let's tighten these. Okay, now I put it such that it is right at the back. Because the lens is long and heavy, I put this all the way behind, right? I didn't put this forward, I brought it all the way back. And this is the front end. So it now balances like this. So let's see. Can you see? I pointed the center of gravity is somewhere here, right? Now you can see that. So just bring it too forward. Let me just lock these positions so it's easier to focus on this axis. Okay. So only this axis is moving. Now you can see it is too forward. So if I move this a bit back, can you see? This is where my axis is running, right? Just somewhere here. Okay, let's must press this piece down, if not it won't lock properly. It'll start sliding. That's the design flaw. You can still swing like a pendulum, so it's a bit low. So now I know my center of gravity is below the pivot. I know my center of gravity is below the pivot point because it is swinging, right? So now I have to raise this up. Let me raise it up a little bit. Yeah, let me raise it all the way up and see. There, it tilts down. Okay, so still tilts down. It's so difficult when it's that sleeve rim here that allows you to slide up and down is difficult to move because it's a bad design. Let's see, it fell down too much. Okay, let's live with this for the time being, and then we come back to it again. So I just tightened that, and now let's look at the other axis. Now I've locked this in position. Now let's unlock this and see where it tilts. It tilts this direction. So for this I have to adjust this plate here. There's something slipped. Let me lock that in position. After locking in position, it's tilting to one side. So let's unlock and move it. Tilting down this way, so I have to move it that way. Wow. Okay, how about this? So it looks like it's still lower than this. So it is behaving like a pendulum. So now I have to increase. This height a bit. So you can see let me just I just want to move it slightly inward. Okay, there's a little bit more balancing left. I have to just adjust it a little bit more and then it should be okay. It was all the time leaning this way. So now let me just it doesn't give any space for my hand. I always keep hitting the lens because my thumb is in the way. Now how do I undo and do? Okay, it's a bit low now for this. Let's bring it up just a little bit. It's still a bit low, but sometimes I think I didn't move it up enough. It's a bit unsteady. As you can see, it's slightly off. Let me just bring it up a little bit. There is still a balancing problem. It's still swinging like a pendulum. It's almost there. Not too bad. It's balanced about the pivot point. Now let's see the other side. A little bit tilt to one side, right? So now we have to adjust this side. It's going down that way, so I have to bring it forward this side just by a micro amount. Ha! It's done. It's almost done. Sometimes you don't know whether you have moved it or haven't moved it at all. Now it's too much. Ha! It's almost balanced. Wonderful. It's a little bit off, but still. Now let's unlock both. It's slightly off. Now it's almost good as balanced. So let's switch it on and see. Okay, now let me power it up and then calibrate it. I've just switched it on. Auto tune. Now it's tuning. Okay, now it's finished auto tuning, and you can see it works very well. So when it's set to auto tune, it will set the tilt motor to back to 16. For a heavy camera, the tilt motor strength should be around 16. For lighter cameras, you can bring it down to 10 or 8 or even as low as 5. Select the highest value you can. For example, set in the custom setting to select 8 or 10 or 11. Try to get the highest value you can. Don't use auto tune if your camera is very light. Well, it's not simple, it's just a bit tedious because the design of these arms and adjustments are very poor quality. I wish they had done something better. I wish they had done something better because this sliding ring and this ring, it's supposed to slide, right? But when there's a weight, it tilts to one side and it's very difficult to slide, right? So if it is smooth, tightly packed, it can slide like a ruler, right? But it can't, and that's the problem with this design. All of them have this problem. When the weight is too high, they will tilt to one side, and when they tilt to one side, it becomes difficult to adjust and fine-tune. Anyway, that is how to balance the camera on the gimbal. Okay, so I hope now you understand how to balance the gimbal. Number one is look at this position, right? I didn't show that there, but now I'm showing you. You can move it backward and forward and lock the position so that your center of gravity is directly below this point, right? Here, directly below here. And then you adjust the swing, this forward and backward, this position backward or forward, so that your center of gravity is directly above this point, right? And once you adjusted that, then you check whether it swings like a pendulum and adjust the height until it stops swinging like a pendulum. After that, you lock those positions in and come back and adjust this guy. Let me just release this position, how this guy moves. See, which means that you have to shift the camera in and out until the center of gravity is just in line with these two, in line with this and that axis, right? Once you get that right, then come back and check this position, whether it's still balanced or not. If it's balanced, then good. If it's not balanced, then adjust it a bit more until you get it right. So you just have to repeat these two operations until it's done. Once it's done, that's it, your gimbal is balanced, and then you switch on and try and recalibrate. If it's a heavy camera and lens, then you can use auto tune to adjust the motor strengths. It will be set somewhere around 16 for the tilt motor. But if your camera is light, don't use auto tune. Set the tilt motor to below 16, maybe 11 or 8 or 5, right? Try to get the more powerful position. The lower the number, the less strength there is in the motor. So try to get the more powerful position, and you're ready to go. It's quite straightforward, right? Once you understand the theory behind balancing the gimbal, it's quite straightforward. It can be tedious initially, but there you are. You got it done.